Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another brew from my top 10 list. So this one we're going to pick Hollow One. And I'm also going to go back to the top 10 list from Amake. I knew I did a pretty terrible job of actually going through my top 10 and pick Shadow of the Grave, as both of these I think can marry together and make a good Waste Not modern deck. So this particular deck we're not going to focus so much on making our opponent discard cards, but rather ourself discard cards while our opponent discards cards. So the best two cards for that is going to be Burning Inquiry and the Dark Deal. So both of these will at least get 3 cards. With the Burning Inquiry, Dark Deal, hopefully we'll get more, and then effectively make the Hollow One be a free spell and have Shadow of the Grave fill your hand up. The Shadow of the Grave with a Burning Inquiry ends up being almost like an Ancestral Visions. It is kind of a more pricey combo, as it will cost 3 mana to do so, and the Burning Inquiry does randomly discard the cards. However, this is going to happen in multiple games. It's not going to be that hard to actually pull this off. And Shadow of the Graves can easily be discarded if they're not useful. I mean, no harm if they go to your graveyard. So for this particular deck, we're going to try to run cards that synergize with this package. So we're going to run on our 1-drops being Raven's Crime is really good because it chains well with Waste Not. So any excess land you have in your hand can then be used to make your opponent discard a card. And then you're drawing a lot of cards, adding a lot of mana when you do get the Waste Not combo out. And Raven's Crime is perfect in the graveyard. We have the Faithless Looting as a way to reduce the cost of the Hollow One down to 1 mana. So on turn 2, we can easily go Faithless Looting, discard 2 cards, trigger off the Hollow One down to 1 mana, play it for 1, and it's effectively our Tarmogoyf, a 4/4 on turn 2, and it can start attacking in for a lot of damage. Collective Brutality is also really good too. With Shadows of the Grave and Collective Brutality, it's a little bit tougher to make this combo work, but on turn 4, you can easily see this happening, especially if you do have a Waste Not. This is going to go crazy. You discard all of the cards, so if they have like a Birds of Paradise, you kill the Birds of Paradise, look at their hand, make them lose 2 life and gain 2 life, and then reduce the cost of your Hollow Ones, for example, and then you're good to go. We also, of course, running the 4 of Waste Nots, and 2 Cathartic Reunions is another way just to go through our hand and try to find what we need. We're going to be utilizing more of our graveyard as a win condition here. So Lingering Souls and Sedastric Specters are going to be things that we want to loot, and then we can unearth them or flash them back for 2 black, which is very important because, again, it synergizes with the 2 mana that you get off of the Waste Not. So we're going to try to burst our opponents with either small increments of damage, or we can do it all in 1 turn with a Rally the Peasants flashback. I'm going to run just a 1-of in the deck, as it's on the particular turn. Sometimes I like haste effects, like a Burst of Speed. I've played it with the Past in Flames to be able to flashback spells from our deck, and then Burst of Speed all of our zombie/Lingering Souls tokens, and then give them +2/+0. But I think that we can set it up for a kill later on. So it's just a 1 of Rally the Peasants. I'm not going to rely on it that often. And the Spectre is kind of cool because it also has synergy with the Waste Not. So it's a 3/2 flying, and then you can unearth it for 2, and then when it deals combat damage to a player, they have to discard a card. The Claim to Fame actually seemed kind of cool in this deck. Let's just look at Claim to Fame. Other than, I thought about putting like Dark, or Gravecrawler, not Dark. Gravecrawler in this deck because it can return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then it also can give target creature +2/+0 and haste with the Aftermath side. So both these sides, this is just a card you'd get value out of if it was in your graveyard. And it just seems like Rather the Peasants is a little more powerful, but it does give that haste effect. So for example, if the Claim to Fame could make Hollow One. You have Hollow One come out for free if you've discarded. So say, for example, you go Burning Inquiry on turn 3, and then you discard a Hollow One. Or excuse me, you discard 3 cards and then are able to cast a Hollow One. One of the cards discarding being Claim to Fame. You can then give it +2/+0 and haste. So Claim to Fame is something that I might want to try out. Right now, I just don't think that there's enough synergy with it, as I'd have to figure out some other better 1-drops. Again, Gravecrawler kind of seems cool with it because Gravecrawler, you can either get it back with a Claim to Fame or get it back with the Waste Not. So I'm thinking if there is a 2 mana spell too that you could get back with Claim, then it'd be worthwhile. And it's definitely not a card to be underestimated, being the Claim to Fame. So sideboard, we have a pretty good sideboard package because there are a lot of decks that fold to Surgical Extraction. So you go first turn Burning Inquiry and hit a Surgical Extraction. A lot of times you can just get rid of their win cons. So we're looking at like combo decks like Ad Nauseam or Scapeshift. Because this is cool with Surgical Extraction. You can actually get a card other than a basic land card. So if you happen to hit like a Valakut, you can get rid of all of them. And same thing against like Eldrazi Tron. If you happen to hit one of their Tron lands, you can go get all of them. And so that's incredibly powerful as surgical extractions. Unfortunately, they're insanely expensive, so I kind of sold my house to purchase this deck today, as both the Collective Brutalities and the surgical extractions were insanely expensive. I'll probably just ditch them after I do this video series. Anywho, we also going to run Leyline of the Void. We don't want to be helping out Dredge decks and the Living End decks, so it's going to be our way to hate them out. I also think that Liliana's Caress is probably good enough to put in the sideboard, as there might be some decks that are too tough to deal with the creatures, trying to rely on creatures dishing off damage. So I'm sure that Hollow One and Liliana's Caress are probably going to be the cards that, or some amount of Specters. I don't know what the rate you'd put in of the Caress versus the non-creature decks. It probably would come in versus, and then it adds that ability to just kind of drain your opponent slowly. And the last card I really want to try to play is going to be the Driven to Despair. Now, we don't have any ways to add the green. I probably need to add just a random green source in here. Yeah, I think that we probably do. So we want a black-green land in here. So what is that one called? Oversold Cemetery? So that'd be a 4-color deck. Because the Driven, yeah, we do want to cast the Driven. Actually, oh, not Oversold Cemetery. What's the card called? It's called Forest Swamp. It is the Overgrown Tomb. We're going to throw an Overgrown Tomb in here as well. And that way, I think I'll just get rid of, we do want a basic swamp, but I don't think we need the basic mountains. I think it's fine just to have a 1 of mountain. That way, the Overgrown Tomb can actually cast for the Driven end of Driven to Despair. And this means whenever a creature you control, it gains trample, and whenever a creature deals combat damage play, you draw a card so we can fill back up our hand. Just imagine it was Lingering Souls. You draw a ton of cards, and then the aftermath with Despair is your opponent discards cards. So it's a card I do want to test out. These are some cards, both the Claim to Fame and Driven Despair, I think are very, very underrated at the moment, especially when you go back into modern type formats. So maybe I'll focus on those particular cards on another day for a self-mill strategy. But for now, I think that we're pretty much loaded. We need our sideboard being these cards for sure. And of course, you could put in other cards like Wrench Mind or even Thoughtseize Inquisition. Those type of cards are quite good in a deck like this against particular decks. But anyway, should have pretty decent matchups, I'd say, versus Death Shadow, just as Lingering Souls does well. We should have great matchups versus a lot of the control-based decks too. So there's a few other cards I thought about I'm not thinking of them off the top of my head that I had in. I've built a lot around Waste Not. I definitely need to check this kind of archetype out again. I think the card that is probably the most iffy card is going to be the Sidraxic Specter. It just seems almost like a Closed Looks command to me. It deals 3 damage and they discard a card with the Unearth. It's a free card out of your graveyard. So I think that we're going to have a lot of success with it. And yes, it could get Pathed or Lightning Bolted, but again, if it was a free card, it was a free card. And then the ability for us to hardcast it is actually quite easy with the Steam Vents and the Watery Grave. But again, I have to mess with land base. We might not want the Blackcleave Cliffs. We might want more of a kind of a fetch land type package, more polluted deltas in here, but it's subject to change. So we'll go ahead and queue this up and see how well we do. And I'll try to play a couple games before I've got to head off to a Commander game. All right, so here's the first match of the Hollow One. Yes, we'd like to play first. And I think this is going to be a very awkward hand. We're going to keep the Waste Not. We don't really have any red. I think we have to ship this back, actually. This is a very awkward hand with no really way to make our opponent discard a card, double Hollow Ones, double Waste Not. So we're going to ship it back. And this one's a lot better. Yeah, this one's perfect. We have a first turn Hollow One if the Burning Inquiry does not hit. I think we'll wait a turn, though. We want the Lingering Souls on top, actually, because it's a card we want in the graveyard. So we'll just lead off with the Overgrown Tomb to play tapped, I would say. I'm not going to go for the Burning Inquiry quite yet. I think it's better on turn 3. So if we get a Thoughtseize here, they might actually take the Waste Not. I'm actually okay with that. It's going to be, ooh, we're going against Burn. So I do have Collective Brutality can actually hit next turn and do a ton of, we're going to wait though. So we do have the Waste Not. And next turn I think I'm going to go Collective Brutality. Kill the Swift Spear. Never know if my opponent's going to leave up a card. Nope. So we're going to be able to kill a Swift Spear, gain life, and have our opponent get rid of a card out of their hand. So this can be an insanely good play for us. The Lava Spike, yes, it's going to dish off some damage, but I think that it's going to be, I think it's going to be tough for us to lose this one. Especially if we draw a land here, it'll be insanely good. It is not a land, but that does give us something better to discard. I could just Burning Inquiry here and try to hit a land. I'm not quite sure. I think we have to go Collective Brutality, though. And probably discard these two, the Lingering Souls and the Specter. And then we can have the other combo with Burning Inquiry afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and go Collective Brutality on 3 modes. And reveal, kill, gain life. And we will discard and discard. And we do definitely just want a Boros Charm, I would say. We could get like a Lava Spike because it's easier for my opponent to cast. But Boros Charm does more damage. And this does draw us a card, so if we do... Yeah, I wanted to hit a land there, of course, but we're still in decent shape next turn. I can either throw back a Lingering Souls or... opponent does get a land. That sucks. That was a perfect draw by my opponent, as the Boros Charm is going to be able to get in for some damage. So is the Swift Spear. It does have a Rift Bolt to do the last bit of damage, so I think we're just a little bit off. Yeah. No way for us to gain any life. So... Faithless Looting I don't think is the right play. I actually don't think that... Oh, yeah, we're just at the mercy of anything by our opponent. We could Burning Inquiry and just hope. And we miss like the... Hit his Rift Bolt, but it could have easily hit. Oh, wow, that was a terrible... So the Specter is something we can unearth back. And we also have Lingering Souls. So I think that that's the right play. So we're going to unearth back the Specter. And it was a Searing Blaze. That was perfect. So we get to draw a card, which is a land. And now we can flash back the Lingering Souls. So Boros Charm wins the game here. 2 burn spells win the game. There's 3 lightning bolts out of the way. Rift Bolt takes me to a 1. So he's smartly just getting rid of everything. Need another Collective Brutality off the top or something. Burning Inquiry is also nice. Unfortunately, though, we have 2 Collective Brutalities in the bin. So I think we go Burning Inquiry. It's the best bang for our buck here. Eidolon, Lightning. Okay, so we get a 2/2. We draw a card and draw a card. So here, we'll just go do another Burning Inquiry. We have a Lingering Souls we can flash back. Draw a card, draw a card, draw a card. And yeah, we can flash back a Lingering Souls because we can play this for free. And we can flash back the Lingering Souls, or we can just play a Tapland. I think just flash back a Lingering Souls is the right play. But the thing about a burn is we're down to a 1, and there's basically, I mean, we did get rid of a lot of non-lands. Like, look at how many non-lands that was in a row. And he's down to a 9, but I don't think I can dish off the last bit of damage next turn. There's just so many things my opponent can draw into. Oh, yes, I can. I have 2 Specters in the graveyard. You can see how well this deck actually plays, though. That was a very, very good hand by my opponent. Double Swift Spears, double Boros Charms, double Lava, or Lava Spikes. And it's just a land! We're actually going to pull this off. Yeah, we win next turn. That's actually hilarious. At 1 life. And win the first turn. It gets a very, I would say, tough matchup. I think that there are some things we could bring in. Lane line of, like, Sanctities. I think the burn is just going to be a tough matchup just because we do so much fetch shock nonsense. So let's go ahead and just win the game next turn. And my opponent's just getting upset at the top deck to land in the chat. But I just reminded him a creature, any creature there would have lost in the game as well. It was pretty, I actually think his odds are probably against him here. Let's just count it up here as 1, 2, 3, 4. He had 5 lands, so he has 39 cards left in his deck. I do believe that burn still runs, what, 21? So that's 16 left in his deck, plus all the creatures. Yeah, so actually it was in my favor not to... him to top deck a burn spell. So let's just go ahead and unearth. And we're also going to unearth this. And then attack in. And he's trying to mess me up with tapping stuff. There we go. Yeah, because even if he would have drawn a creature 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. But yep, so he's wrong here. So I'll show you the chat. My opponent is 100% wrong here. It wasn't unlucky of him to not draw a burn spell. Look how many burn spells are in the graveyard. So he can't, look at his outs. He has lightning bolts that he can draw. A Skullcrack. Most of his Skullcracks are, so Boros Charm, Helixes, I guess. But it depends on how many, like, Eidolons. So we're assuming that, so only 1 Eidolon. So 2 Swift Spears, 3 Eidolons, 4 Guides. And what did we say, 15 lands? And yeah, so it's a 50% chance. It wasn't our odds. So yeah, he's just being salty with it. I understand it. You know, I understand the frustration. But yeah. So I don't know if I go like, if I need to try to race with Lion's Crest. I don't think so. I think that we're just going to play it as is. So, but again, this is probably a pretty tough matchup for us. Collective Brutality is kind of our only saving grace. Collective Brutality was the whole reason that the burn deck started to kind of fall off to begin with. I'm going to keep this just because we get a 4/4 out on turn 2. And so I'm not going to run a Faithless Looting. It's just the Blood Crypt's just going to come into play tapped. And speaking of Blood Crypts, and then we can throw the 2... I just pointed into my screen thinking you guys can see what I'm doing. We can discard both the Lingering Souls and the Specter. There's a Waste Not. Oh, and Waste Not doesn't synergize at the moment. Fortunately, we have to take the damage. That sucks. So we're going to get rid of a Lingering Souls and a Specter. Oh, that's so beautiful. And then now we're going to get rid of a Cathartic Reunion and a Specter. And Hollow One is just sick. This card is crazy. Pure This is the best card. This is the best card out of the set. Look how great. This is turn 2. I have 8 power on board. That's nuts. That is nuts. And then my opponent didn't do a first turn or a second turn play. I mean, I can still lose this. But usually burn, not running out a turn 1 or turn 2, is unheard of. So I don't think I want to go waste knots. I don't know. We could go waste knot and then... No, I think we just start... Oh, I'm going waste knot now because I passed up the opportunity, but we'll get in for 8 with the hollowed ones. Oh, I know what my opponent has in hand. We'll go Lingering Soul since I didn't go the Specter. My opponent has to destroy enchantment. He has multiple. Oh, no, he would have used them on the hollow one because it destroys artifact or enchantment. So, yeah, I guess I should have just ran out. But yeah, my opponent is down to 10 life. I've got Lingering Souls on board. A lot of these lands are like fetch shock type lands. So, I mean, there's Arid Mesa. If my opponent does want to saga, it's going to cost some life. Could be like running Skull Cracks to try to stop me from gaining life off the Collective Brutalities. And just going to Helix me. That's a good card. Because it takes him away from being lethal. And Bolt me. So he's going to go for the damage to the face. So, thing is, though, if we do draw a land next turn, we have 6 damage coming from the Specters. So, Guide's coming through. And I'm going to attack. So, let's see what this is going to give us some information. A hollow one. And I will block here with the souls. I don't think it's relevant at this moment. Because we do have a hollow one that's coming out next turn. With the Cathartic Reunion. And at this point, I think we do just get rid of... So I'm going to attack in. We're going to keep the... hollow one back for defense, so... he's down to a 3. I should have Cathartic Reunion first. So then we're going to Cathartic Reunion. Get rid of both my waste knots. They're just not relevant at this point. And we're actually going to Faithless Looting here too. Ooh, I kind of want the Godless Shrine though. But the Faithless Looting just allows for a... Oh, we get to draw cards first, so this is fine. So I can actually discard the Dark Deal and the Specter. And the Polluted Delta would do less, or we could do the Godless Shrine and the Specter. So yeah, we're going to do the Godless Shrine. And the Dark Deal. Because I have 2 Specters in the graveyard. And play the Polluted Delta. I do take a Skull Crack, but it's going to be tough for my opponent to dish off enough damage here. As the Hollow One's like, yeah, especially 2 cards in hand. Can my opponent do 9 damage? It'd need to be a Destructive Reveille and a Boros Charm. A Destructive Reveille and a Boros Charm would be perfect damage. No, it wouldn't. It'd be 1 off. Could have cracked my Polluted Delta there. It doesn't matter. We'll crack it now. Because it can't be Boros Charm, Boros Charm. Go get the 1 of Swamp. And then unearth the 2 Specters. This deck is awesome. feels like almost like the way that Dredge with Prize Amalgam works. And honestly, Prize Amalgam could go in this deck. So it does have a Destructive Reverie. And a Helix, but my opponent still dies. Crazy. Yeah, we'll have to look at Prize Amalgam because I believe the Specter does trigger off. Yeah, because it just returns. I don't know if it's needed. It'd be a good little sideboard option though, or instead of what though? We might need another Unearth card at that point. I'm surprised people haven't tried like an Unearth strategy with the Prized Amalgam. But that's 2-0 burn, and those weren't terrible burn hands, regardless. Yeah, well, it's so salty, so salty. Regardless of what my opponent says here, his draws weren't terrible. That's 4 lands. That's exactly what you want in burn. You don't want more. 4 land allows you to unload your hand, which he did. Unload his hand. Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Skullcrack, Destructive Reverie, Lightning Helix, Goblin Guide. What more do you want out of a burn hand? I mean, literally, what the Goblin Guide coming earlier, of course, would have been better. It was his fault for keeping the hand that he kept. If he was going to give me enough turns to, I'm really thinking that he kept up the Destructive Reverie in his hand early on. I think that was the draw. And then he was hoping that I played a Waste Not. And then he'd kill the Waste Not and I didn't get no value out of it. Where instead he should have killed the Hollow One. So again, my opponent has zero reason to blame anyone but herself here that they lost. So yeah. And again, going back to game number 1, the odds were actually in my favor, not in my opponent's favor, that they drew an irrelevant card, whether it be a creature or a land that just didn't do anything. I still would have won. So I don't know. This is cool. We'll play another game. Alrighty, match number 2. This is another really good hand with the second turn Hollow One. So we could go like first turn Faithless Looting. I wouldn't be against that. And just to get rid of the Sedatric Specter and get more information. We're going at Spirits. This might be a rough matchup just for the way that it can interact with us. Collective Brutality is going to be good, though. I'm trying to figure out what's more important. Just put a Godless Shrine into play tapped. Yeah, I don't have a lot of ways to interact with, like, Spirits. Copter. That's an awesome draw for us, though. Oh, I wish... Oh, we can go double bait. Oh, I can't go double Faithless Looting. Well, let's go Blackcleave Cliffs. Faithless Loot. And at this point, I don't think we need another Blackcleave Cliffs. I'll be playing the Blackcleave Cliffs next turn. So we're going to discard a Specter because I can't cast it at the moment. Yeah, Specter and one of the lands, probably a Blood Crypt. And cast our Hollow One. What a sick combo, Faithless Looting and Hollow One. And there we have a 4/4. So my opponent will get in with, oh, this is the Architect deck, yep. Ugh. We can kill the Mausoleum Wanderer. He's going to get it for 5. I think we do need to keep back our opponent. But Smuggler's Copper is going to be funny if we get a Waste Not. I probably do need to unload most of my hand here. I could just Collective Brutality, kill the Mausoleum Wanderer. That makes everything easy. That's an easy decision here. We'll kill the Mausoleum Wanderer, do 2 damage. I don't think there's a card in my opponent's hand, so we can actually even Faithless Looting for free. So we're going to Faithless Looting first. No, we're not. No, we're not. We have to kill the Mausoleum. And not going to discard a card because my opponent could just sack and then I have to pay a mana. So we're going to go ahead and just target creatures -2, -2. And I tap my lands wrong. Oh, Kevin, concentrate. Yeah, I messed this up. That actually might cost me the game. I can't believe sometimes when I commentate, I caught it right after I tapped it. So next turn we have a good play next turn. We'll Faithless Looting and there's a Chief Engineer. Yeah, no Damnation. A Damnation would do really good against this particular deck. The thing is, we can actually run out as quick as our opponent can. And a Sculptor. But we'd have another hollow one out here. Yeah, I think I actually messed this game up because we get in for 8 this turn. Probably actually another one. Walking Ballista for 2. Crew the Walking Ballista, attack with Smuggler's Copter. But my opponent successfully spit out their entire hand. This is a great draw by my opponent. Waste Not now is terrible. We'll play the land. We're going to Faithless Loot first. Hell, those are both awful. We'll get rid of both of them. Blissymar and, yeah. I guess Waste Not is probably a little bit better in case we get Burning Inquiries later on. So I think we'll just get rid of, yeah, both these lands. And get it for 7. This puts my opponent within lethal range next turn. Do I die, though, on the back? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, I think I'm okay. Yeah, actually, I don't go. I need a way to get another Specter in the graveyard. This is where you want Kolgan's Command as an option in the sideboard. You don't run against this deck very often though, because it gets eaten alive by bolts and like lighting any sort of bolts paths. One of these are the key pieces. I ran a deck similar back in the day, and I used to run like the Aether Vial, and I found Vial very, very good at exploding the hand out. Throne of the God Pharaoh, that might actually just finish it off no matter how I block. I'm going to pump up the Ballista. It can only be pumped up once more. Down to an 8. Oh, I just die here. Yep, the does 4 damage or does 5 damage, and the ballista kills me. So that was a this insanely good draw off the top of the throne. What do we have? None of these. I don't think our sideboard does anything. I think I'm just going to keep it as is. The Driven Despair also doesn't do anything. My opponent's just trying to rip out his hand as quick as possible. I'm trying to do the same. This is going to be a matchup, again, that I'm going to be very weak against because I don't run any removal. Of course, Lightning Bolts on the sideboard, Murderous Cuts, Dismembers, things like that are options. I decided to go against that because I like to be the deck that people have to answer, not the deck that answers, if that makes sense. So I guess I could get rid of like Shadow of the Grave in this deck probably wants to go down in numbers. All right, so I'd like to play first. I can't keep this hand, so we're going to ship it off. And this is good. No Burning Inquiry, but I mean, it's acceptable. And we definitely want that on top. Hopefully my opponent does not flood out the hand. Perfect. And I want to see like a, yep, Chief Engineer, exactly what I wanted to see. And we'll throw out a, yeah, this is huge. I'm going to get so many zombies. Superion, Sculptor, Walking Ballista, Grand Architect. And I got no mana off of that. My opponent did not have another land. But look at the zombies we just were able to assemble. 6 2/2 zombies on turn 3. There's the Judge's Familiar, and a Throne of the God Pharaoh, and a Mere Superion. Shadow of the Grave is pretty terrible. We will use two modes, I believe, with the Collective Brutality and just get rid of the... So I'm just going to get a basic Swamp just so it doesn't cost me any more damage. Collective Brutality for 2 modes. Target gets -2, -2. Ooh. I can't do 2 modes because then it will mess up my Specter. So we're not going to do that yet. So we're going to attack it with everything. And we just get a land, which doesn't do anything for us because we haven't discarded anything. My opponent is down to a 7. And Collective Brutality is not a... So I think what we're going to do is just gain 2 life. And lets it happen rather than go the Judge's Familiar. So can't really attack in with much. Has the Blink Moth next. Is 1 card after the Blink Moth. Yeah, I assume there was nothing going to happen. So we do need to draw into something good here. Another Waste Not is pretty terrible, actually. We forced my opponent to lose some cards here, so that's actually pretty good. Surprised the Blink Moss didn't get activated. And honestly, I think I keep the Waste Knot in my hand. And here's the reasoning why. If I draw into a Cathartic Reunion, I want to be able to actually use it. Or a Collective Brutality. Well, Collective Brutality is kind of awkward. Now my opponent is down to a 1. Does have blockers next turn. Unfortunately, I don't have a blue source, though, for the... if I draw into a Sedatric Specter. Another land. So it'd have to be a pretty phenomenal card. Chief Engineer does allow for another blocker. So now getting in is probably not... we're at a stalemate here. So we're down to whoever can top deck best. And that definitely isn't a good top deck card. So let's see here. We have... yeah, it's still Waste Not with the amount of odds. I lose... my opponent would lose a Blink Moth Nexus. I'd lose a zombie. Yuck. I could end up actually losing 2 zombies. I'm just going to ship it. Lodestone Golem is annoying for sure. And it's going to start wheedling me down. That's smart. Oh, these Shadow of the Graves need to go. They're not good. I think maybe it's a one of... no, it's just... Shadow of the Grave, I think, are the weak link for sure. At this point, I think we can cast another Waste Knot, but we have probably lost this. It sucks to have your opponent at 1. Yeah, Throne of the God Pharaoh. Can't my opponent just draw another throne? Or a land? Walking Ballista is pretty brutal at this point. I don't think I'm pushing through with these zombies. I mean, pushing through with something like a Lingering Souls. So we're going to go ahead and kill the Lodestone Golem. We lose 2 zombies. I'd only lose 2 zombies this way on the Superior. And let's hope it's not a Walking Ballista here. Judge is familiar. Lose a life from... and it's a Blood Crypt. Oh, we'll keep it in my hand. At this point, we can put out another Waste Knot. But even a Dark Deal, it'd have to be a Burning Inquiry we have to draw into. Maybe I should be keeping those in for Cathartic Reunions, Faithless Lootings. But didn't see a Faithless Looting out of, or a Cathartic Reunion in quite a few cards. I mean, we're down to 14 cards. And my opponent does keep getting relevant flyers. With the one of Throne of the God Pharaoh. Ugh. Gross. And I have to block the lodestone now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm surprised my opponent's not attacking with more. Yeah, my opponent's insane. Should definitely be attacking you with more cards. Yeah, so it's Burning Inquiry or bust here. Faithless Looting will work too. Even Lingering Souls will be okay. So Lingering Souls does work. I can't flash it back, though. I don't think it's smart. Because we'd be dead on board with the tapped creatures. My opponent's just deciding whether to sack creatures. And I didn't play the land first, so yes, I can't pay this other one. It does get rid of 2 creatures, though. Oh, because I just died next turn. Yep, I'm dead. With the activation. So me not playing this land hurt a turn later. So we lose that one. Womp womp. Another Lingering Soul is coming down the bin. These shadows have to go. They are just not. They don't. They're too. I see the plus sides to them. Have being able to off of a waste not, then get everything back that you discarded if you hit it off a Dark Deal or a Burning Inquiry. I mean, that is actually quite significant. Your opponent, I don't know, they might just be too cute. Maybe they want to be in the sideboard. Maybe we want to just have the Despair as more in the main instead of the Shadow of the Grave as a way to draw cards. I think they're a little more, they're just more versatile, more valuable. All right, I'm going to play one more. Alrighty, so here we are in match number 3. This is a keepable hand. It has a Faithless Looting. You always keep a Faithless Looting hand with this deck, more than often, as it just helps set up your hand, goes through so many cards. So we're going to definitely just go Black Cleave Cliffs. And we could wait for a... Nope, we go Faithless Looting for sure. And there's our Shadow of the Grave. Again, I couldn't take it out because we're actually in a daily with this. We're going to go the Sedatrix, Specter, and I think that we are just going to get rid of a Blood Crypt at this point. Or just a Bloodstained Mire. We have... No, this could go get our White Source if we absolutely needed it. Maybe I do just get rid of Shadow of the Grave. So, we'll pass the turn. If nothing else, we can activate a Specter next turn. Dark Deal is interesting to actually play just next. Well, the thing about Faithless Looting is they become such card disadvantage with the first one you cast without like a Waste Not. They're insanely good though with the Hollowed one in this one and with the Sedatrix Specter. So we're playing against Death Shadow. This is going to be a match where I think is going to be very, very easy, as we just clog at the board extremely well. Our opponent will bring in some hate for our graveyard, which is going to help, but then we just end up hard casting the Specters and whatnot. And I actually will bring in hate as the ley lines as well, I believe, versus this deck. Ley lines are so good in this deck too because we can always just get rid of them. So yeah, they're not. So this is God the Shrine. So we are pretty much have all of our sources. I'm just going to go ahead and play the Steam Vents. And we'll Specter. Again, not a bad card that says target player loses 3 life and discards a card for free that you played out of your graveyard. Now, this is Death Shadow. We're helping wrap him up, but I think this is still fine. There's nothing better to do. Possibly a Faithless Looting, but I'm just going to wait. Probably just end up doing a Dark Deal next turn to try to hit Hauled Ones. It all depends. If I draw a Hauled One, we'll just go for a Hauled One play next turn. If not, we're Dark Dealing. You could make the argument for just Faithless Looting back, but I think that's kind of pretty meh. So there's going to be a Cryptic Command. So my opponent decides that everything in the deck is more valuable than a Cryptic. I still think this is Death Shadow. Oh, actually, this could just be a red-blue control. But a lot of Death Shadows have gone over to Cryptic Command. I mean, they run Tasigur in most of the Grixis. And that's a good one to get back. Yep, there's a Thought Scar. This should give us more. Yep, Grixis. So we do help ramp our opponent up. Here comes a Tasigur. And Tasigur is really good against Hauled Ones. Not the greatest versus Sidashic Specters. And yeah, this is where we're going to go Dark Deal. We don't need the Overgrown Tomb. And hope to go grab something good. We got nothing. So went through majority of our cards without a Hauled One. That hurts. And still don't have a Waste Not either. The Obstructionist, they're adding this card to the Waste Not. So I'm just going to get beat down at this point. Now we want that card. We could go... My opponent's keeping up a lot of mana. We go Collective Brutality. I don't know. I think we just go Burning Inquiry here to try to dig even more. Just going to cast the Obstructionist. Pretty bad against like Faithless Lootings. And yeah, that was pretty terrible. We'll play the land. I think we want to hit lands here. Still didn't hit. I mean, I could collect a Brutality, actually, and get rid of the Destructionist plus rip out a card out of their hand. Shadow of the Grave gets back Burning Inquiry, Water Grave, collect a Brutality. I think just doing that was the smart call. Unfortunately, though, we are getting hit hard. That's 7. So the Brutality is going to need to hit. It's tough, though. There's another Serum Visions. We probably ramped him into another, like, Angler type card. Any sort of counterspell here is rough. So I'm going to go, geez, Cathartic Reunion too. No, I have to go Collective Brutality. I think we lost this one. Another Lightning Bolt's got to be in hand. 2 modes. I can't, just 1 mode. No, this one's going to go 2 modes. Kill off an Obstructionist. Look at hand. 0 things in hand. And I don't think I can risk it. We'll just... No, I've got a Cathartic Reunion. Oh, I can't do Cathartic Reunion. Yeah, we've just... Have to just do 2 life. Pretty bad, but... Is what it is. Close to stabilizing. We just need a Lingering Souls. I mean, I can still draw Lingering Souls at the top. The problem is with Cathartic Reunion. Well, Faithless Looting can happen next turn. But any Lightning Bolt now? I'll probably bring in Surgical Extractions. Maybe I'll bring in just a bunch of the hate cards because, yeah, we can get rid of one of their win cons. It's pretty tough for my opponent. That's a terrible card. Cathartic Union doesn't work. What is the... We need the blue? No, we don't need the blue. So we'll keep these open. Yes, we do need the blue. Ay, ay, ay. I don't have another blue that I can go get without dying. So, yeah, this is just game. Alright, so we went through almost half of our deck without a Hauled One or a Lingering Souls. That is always one of those pretty awful hands. We'll get rid of Shadow of the Graves here. These Driven Despairs actually do seem pretty good, but I think this is the match where we'll just bring in the Surgical Extractions and the Ley Lines. And I'm going to get rid of a Rally. Possibly you only want one Ley Line. Not that big of a deal. The Surgicals, I think, are better, as they just get rid of all of the opponent's cards. Possibly, actually, Surgicals aren't. Yeah, Surgicals actually aren't very good in this match, because they work with, like, Kolgan's Command to a point. I'm going to try a Driven to Despair, just a one of. All the Ley Lines I do think are good. Raven's Crime is fine. Do I care about Raven's Crime? I think so. Raven's Crime is a good way for me to get rid of cards out of their hand. I don't want to go like Lunon's Caress, I don't think. No Ley Line opening hand. Gosh, this hand is awful too because we have the Dark Deals without anyway with the Hauled One in hand. We do have our lands, though. I'm going to ship it back. And this is just as terrible. I don't know where all the Waste Knots... I mean, this was our Finding Hollow Ones. We'll keep this, though. I don't think I can go to 5. Put this on bottom. Gross. Collective Brutality, we can wait a turn. Yeah, I don't know what to grab here. Probably a Godless Shrine. And I think I will go turn 3. There's a Specter. Now I wish I would have got a blue source instead of the Godless Shrine, but we'll go Blackleaf Cliffs here. And pass. Problem is we like leave ourselves up to counter magic. Our opponent didn't have a lot of cards though. I think I'm going to go another Blackleaf Cliffs. There's nothing I can do for 3 modes, though. Yeah, I'm going to pass. I don't want to just run it into... Even Collective Brutality is kind of awkward in this one. Possibly I should have just got rid of... No, because it rips out a card. Now we'll loot. So my opponent wants a mana leak here. Oh, perfect. So here we'll get rid of... Oh, there's Dark Deal. We'll get rid of the Specter for sure. And most likely, do we need this Blood Crypt at this point? I think we get rid of both anyway. Is Waste not actually going to do anything now? Is the problem. So I think we can get rid of Dark Deal. Yeah, we'll get rid of the probably the just the land, because we can Collective Brutality at 2 modes. And this should get the counterspell. Out of the way, yep. And we got double Hollow One, which is actually not the greatest card versus Tasigur, or even a Kolaghan's Command. I think Kolaghan's Command in the place of Shadow is probably the right call. There's one Tasigur out of the way. Cathartic Reunion's nice later on. We'll probably just use a Faithless Looting on the Cathartic Reunion, though. But for now, we're just going to go the Specter. Rather get in for the damage while I can. Get a Lightning Bolt off, possibly for the Specter here. Yep. And then get in there for 4. And really put my opponent on the ropes. So they just can't sit back. Tasigur is also another card we could put in this deck. That could be a card instead of the Shadow of the Doubt. Either that or the Grimlock Angler. Both of those are options. I'm actually thinking that's the right route to go, is probably the Angler. Because we use like Faithless Looting and Lingering Souls and the Specter. Tasigur is actually quite weak because we don't have the blue mana. I guess we do have 2 sources, though. Just going to bounce it, huh? Bounce and draw? Seems pretty desperate. And we'll definitely cast Waste Not here. And we'll Burning Inquiry. And yay, we kept it. Unfortunately, we didn't get the... Gets a Tasigur and a Fulminator Mage. We don't have anything to do with the black mana, no. Cast the Hollow One. Opponent's down to a 5. This is just old school. This isn't even Death Shadow. They're just running old school Tasigur kind of control. Thought Scour finds another Cryptic. And wow, we win that one. So I'm not sure if Rally actually does seem pretty good in this match. I don't think Dark Deal... It makes Waste Not so bad, though, if I just take out... Do I even need the Waste Not is the thing. So... No, Waste Not's actually still okay if we take out the Dark Deals. We just have to rely on our Lingering Souls tokens actually getting through. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with bringing in these. Let's try it without the dark deals. Possibly just throw in one dark deal. We'll try the Driven to Despair. This deck is legit though. That's all I can say so far. This is a good hand, of course. That's one of the win cons is Tassiger. Do have to worry about like counter squalls. Goodbye, Polluted Delta. And that also goes away. There's a Driven to Despair. That's nice. We could go like a Raven's Crime right now. I think we just go Bloodstained Mire. Go get a Godless. Went for a Thought Scour, got rid of the Liliana. Thoughtseize, no, it gets the Waste Not. That sucks. He'd be crazy to take anything but the Waste Not. Womp womp. That hurts. Cathartic Union is awesome, though. I'll take that. And I'm actually going to get rid of Raven's Crime and Driven to Despair. We can start hard casting. Ugh. Well, like we can start hard casting Lingering Souls, but we miss it. So we miss our land drop, unfortunately. But Snapcasters are basically useless at the moment. Well, Burning Inquiry. That Thoughtseize was huge. Yeah, Snapcaster doesn't do anything. Surprised my opponent decides just to cast that. Don't hit the hollow one? Nice. Did hit the Lingering Souls, though. What did it? It did hit a hollow one. So, Watery Grave here. Yeah, geez. Still don't really have anything. We can start casting the... That is pretty lame, actually. Got a Tasker and Nimble Constructionist, which are two of the win cons, though. All of our Specters can be hard cast at this point. I'm just going to start Lingering Souls, of course. Would have been sweet if Lingering Souls would have gone to the bin there. And the Black Cleave Cliffs. Yeah, or the... Yeah, Collective Brutality was fine. That's what it was. Hollow One, Black Cleave, Collective Brutality went to the bin. Linger Souls, Black Cleave. We would have had double Hollow Ones and be able to flashback Lingering Souls all in one turn. Yeah, I don't know. I think this deck is legit. I think someone that's not as terrible of a player as I am actually plays this. They're gonna have a lot of success. And this is in its very elementary stages. Shadow might still be like a one of in the deck, or a two of possibly. I don't think we care about this other Blackcleave Cliffs. Gonna take the damage. That is interesting. Let's go Burning Inquiry again. Opponent's gonna decide on a Cryptic Command. And again, I could have gone Menace off of this Despair. I actually want this Burning Inquiry to hit. I want these Lingering Souls to go to the bin. Again, Lingering Souls can be taken out for prize amalgams, and then instead of the shadows, put in one other Unearth card. What is another good Unearth card for cheap? I know there's just a zombie, and you can even go even more into Gravecrawler at that point. There's the 2-mana 2/1 that has 1 Unearth that can come back, and that just triggers off the prize amalgams. You could even just put in the Haunted Deads as well. I think it makes you more susceptible to the graveyard hate, though. So it looks like my opponent is going to Cryptic Command this. Don't have a Faithless Looting in my graveyard either. So Cryptic Command's going to get back the Hollow one. Probably, so it's not going to draw. But I think here we'll just make him discard a card. No, we can use that next turn to reduce the cost. So I'm not going to throw out the Blackcleave Cliffs, because I haven't discarded anything this turn, right? So that would just effectively reduce it by 2. And then I still wouldn't have the mana. But next turn I will. But and I still can't Lingering Souls, because Retrace can only hit a land. So I think we're just going to pass. But Cryptic Commands want to be chaining to draw cards. They don't want to be bouncing hollow ones. Gone through a lot of my opponents cycling through. I mean, Tasker can be almost hard cast here. Perfect. Okay, so here's where we're going to just an island. Okay, let's do it again. That is another land away from a Tassiger, though. Worst card my opponent could have in hand is another Cryptic. The Nimble Obstructionist would also be kind of tough. as that's going to put a lot of pressure, but then we can start just lingering souls. And there is a nimble obstructionist, so this has to be, what, a cryptic command in hand? Counter draw? No, it happens. Bounce draw? I guess bounce draw is as good as... No, counter draws, you just dismembers it. All right, so we are on to top deck mode now. My opponent can't top deck a Tasker and cast it. And we can start just playing Lingering Souls. Collective Brutality is actually pretty good here. No, it's not. Counter Squall would be tough. Nope, it happens. Okay, so 2 unknown cards in my opponent's hand. Don't know why they wouldn't play land unless, well, yeah. Rather the Peasants isn't quite lethal. We could go with the Despair here. I don't think it's... We go Collective Brutality too. I think I am going to go Collective Brutality. Choose 2 modes. Kill the Snapcaster and look at opponents. I don't know. I think I'd just rather actually cast another Lingering Souls. From my graveyard or from my hand? Probably just use the one from my hand. And that hits. Crazy. I don't know if my opponent can stop a rally. Now, do I retrace it with the... Pretty sure there's a land in hand. Thought Scour. That was worthwhile. Well, we're actually going to attack in with everything because this is lethal with the Collective Brutality. Okay, tap down. I'm glad I didn't use anything. So now we're going to do 2 modes here. Whoops, that's combat. Cast 2 modes. We'll go... I think killing the Snapcaster is actually better. Because we have lethal next turn with the rally. Yeah, there's a Damnation. Nice. Okay. We hit the Damnation, kill the Snapcaster. And my opponent's at the mercy of top decks. Snapcasters don't work. Nimble Instructionists don't work. Tassigers don't work. Ruling Out of the Veil doesn't work. Lightning Bolt doesn't work. Terminate doesn't work. So I will just go Rally. This is lethal. Attacking with everything. Guess we could have waited for a Cryptic Command. But pretty good. I wish I had some more time. Again, we have a tournament starting pretty soon. I got to get this edited up. Insanely fun matchups. Insanely... We did have the weak matchup versus the creature-based deck, but you can see Death Shadow, Control, this deck is going to do very well. Um, it actually beat out Burn because the Collective Brutalities do very well. Again, a few of the changes, the Shadows probably just for the Despairs in the main, since we have a lot of like cards that we can get value off of that for. And we can all do it in the same turn. Yeah, it's kind of awkward in the same turn with, but you could get like a Specter into the graveyard plus a Despair in the graveyard and then flash it back both if you hit it off like a waste not enough mana. And then at least that Specter discards 2 cards. I don't know if we'll mess around with it. Definitely mess around with it. I'll be playing more. I'll finish this up. Maybe we'll do it on stream. I've got a lot of decks that are stuck like half matchups, and I'll try to do stream as soon as possible. But I'm excited about this deck. It's definitely got potential. There's a lot of different ways you can build it. A lot of those options we can explore. The a good 2-drop that can recur itself. What is one? Like a Relentless Dead type card. They could just recur itself with Claim to Fame. Could also be... I mean, even flashing back a card for +2/+0 and haste on a creature doesn't seem bad. To give a zombie +2/+0 and haste for 2 mana. I mean, late game can make even a Lingering Souls kind of maybe I'm overthinking it. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.